Wafube. This is me, Silent Bay, aka Warlock Asylum, coming at you once again with another episode of Raw Talk. And today we'll be discussing why capitalism has never proven itself. And this video is not to make a claim for either the conservative or the liberal, the right or the left, because I know the game, how they leave certain facts out to convince one side to agree with their agenda, and the other side leaves facts out to get another group to agree with their agenda. And actually, the two parties' agenda is the same. It's just a game of smoking mirrors. This dialogue came up, this topic, based on some of the things I've been hearing, like capitalism is the greatest form of economic enterprise and things of that nature. And perhaps it is. However, in American history, it's just never proven itself. And that's just one of the things I want to discuss. I'm going to share my screen. Um, right now, the weather is good, in Hawaii. Um, that's where we're chilling at right now, is in Hawaii for a while, So let me just share my screen. Okay, I'm going to continue. I'm going to start sharing my screen right now. Give me 1 second. And I think we should be coming up shortly. There we are. And this is about a plantation in Marlborough County. Actually, Claudius Pegues um, he was entwined with some family, even though um, I have family from different areas around the world or whatever. But he was entwined in some part of the family or whatever. But I just want to show you something right here concerning him. Let me just scroll down and let me just take a look here where it says, it's just giving the location right here. I want to get a little bit more on the meat of it. We got a lot of vehicles on the road out here, where we find that in the 1700s, Claudius Pegues received property over 20,000 acres right here on a land grant. So, and this is not unpopular. If you look back into how land was acquired in the early stages of U.S. history, specifically before the Revolutionary War and during the Revolutionary War and post-Revolutionary War, a lot of people got granted land for in the war. I think it's like my seventh or eighth great grandfather, Isaac Hammond, he he didn't receive his property because he was a person of color. You know what I'm saying? He was he was part Native American, part African, and part Romani, or what some people call by the derogatory term gypsy. He didn't get any land. He fought with the intent that he was going to get a grant. Some people, because of who they were related to, they received property. So here you have a person, Clovis Pegues, who's entwined somewhere in my family history also. So I don't say this with any form of malice to some level, but the dude got 20,000 acres and he had free labor because he owned slaves. Now, this land wasn't acquired through battle. It was like an affirmative action sort of thing. Here's the property. Who wouldn't take that? Just come over, settle, build your house, all this sort of crazy stuff. And there's numerous stories about this. The second thing we're going to look at, I'm going to pull up another page. Hold on 1 second. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to go into another feature about the early days of capitalism, quote unquote capitalism, that's not considered by the general public. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. Let me just share my screen and we'll get into this right away. Okay, let's Again. There we are. On the topic of capitalism, first, before we begin, let's talk about the land grants as we just saw. And now we're going to talk about compensated emancipation. That's a term you want to get used to. It's called compensated emancipation. And this is what it says. It says compensated emancipation was a method of ending slavery under which the enslaved person's owner received compensation in exchange for manumitting them. This could be monetary or it could be a period of labor of indenture. Cash compensation rarely was equal to the slave's market value. So here we have a case where, and it's not discussed, slave owners receive reparations. So you have to kind of question someone who's very critical of the idea of reparations, even though the slaves who were freed, I guess because, hey, you shouldn't treat human beings that way. They received nothing, but the people who kept them as slaves received compensation. This can be found in the Wikipedia article. It could be found in a New York Times article. I think it goes back like a couple of years, but if you Google compensated emancipation, you would find this. And then when we go down further, it tells us what the price was. It says the law prohibited slavery in the district, forcing 900 odd slave owners to free their slaves, with the federal government paying owners an average of about $300 for each slave, which is equivalent to $8,000 in 2019. So these dudes got compensation for freeing slaves. So here's the thing. Where does capitalism come in at? First, you got most of the land in America was settled during the founding fathers' day through free land grants and, all of that prior and post Revolutionary War. They got free, like 20,000 acres, free land, free labor. And then when they released the slaves, they got equivalent to $8,000 a slave. So all of this wealth was built 200 to 300, let's say 350 years. You have free land and free labor. How much money could you make? Profit with free land and free labor. And then after all of that is said and done, after they received the compensation that they needed, that they got from the U.S. government, the U.S. government paid reparations to slave owners and not to slaves. So after they got about an average of $8,000 per slave, which is, it's equivalent to that today in 2019, but it was $300 per slave back in the day. Then they want to tell some millennial that capitalism is the greatest thing in the world. You can take your idea, you can borrow money from us after we made all this money on free labor. With free labor and free land, we made all this money, didn't have to invest anything, not 1 cent. And they're going to tell someone, well, if you have an idea, you can take a loan out from us and you can build your own business and you can make $100,000 a year, $1 million a year. Hell, you can make $10 million a year and live good for the rest of your life. And now you have all these guys coming out watching YouTube videos who don't know the full history of the United States and never implement the fact that these dudes got free land. I'm talking about thousands of acres of shot in grants and free labor. And then when they was forced to free the labor, they got compensated for that. But then you got some millennial running around talking about, capitalism is the greatest form of society in the world. Fucking idiot. I'm saying all you're doing is taking a loan to pay these dudes back. And they're just profiting off of you. You can never reach someone with a 350-year head start. And I'm not talking about over African Americans, I'm talking about over every ethnicity that comes in here. So what happens is you have these immigrant waves. And in the immigrant waves, no one's going to the library. No one could probably even speak English coming into the country from the immigrant waves of the Irish, the Italians, the Polish, the Russians. All they know is that they see these people complaining over here, and they never got a chance to go to the library because they don't speak English. So they're teaching like, look, man, we don't want to be miserable, which is true. Hard work, you're gonna make a good living. Certain ethics, you're gonna make a good living. Don't kill your own. Don't get involved in drugs. Fathers, be in the household. All that stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's not crazy. I just that's the way I talk sometimes, and that's a good thing. However, the condition of how people got taken advantage of, or even the working class got taken advantage of, we want to make our dreams come true, and you always live in middle class. None of these people ever saw the fact that these dudes got everything, and during the revolutionary period, the revolutionary war period in the United States, basically on some sort of like twisted idea of affirmative action. That's what founded the country. When you're getting $20,000 of land free, you know what I'm saying? And then you're getting compensated for releasing slaves that you owned. You know, so it kind of gives you an idea. People say, the slaves was free the country. No, it had nothing to do with any civil rights. If you're paying the slave owner $8,000, what's equivalent to 8,000. So if a person had, I don't know, if he had like 100 slaves, that's like 8,000 times 100. You know what I'm saying? You do the math. You know what I mean? That's what they would get. Plus, they had they inherited their father's house, the father before him. You know what I'm saying? They had 100 years of free labor, free land. They owned the land. Now these people got no place to go, so they have to work for you for indenture, which is like, I don't know what that would be like, maybe 3 cents an hour. You know what I'm saying? Then you're going out pulling this stuff out of the history books, and you're telling some millennial kid, capitalism is the greatest thing in the world. He's running around looking like a logo idiot, repeating it, because he doesn't know the history. Should you take advantage of capitalism? Yeah, you should get your ideas off and stuff like that. But you have to know what you're dealing with and what type of facade is being placed around you. You see what I'm saying? It's just, capitalism is the greatest thing in the world. Fucking idiot. You know what I'm saying? This is me, Sal Bay, aka Warlock Asylum, coming at you once again with another episode of Raw Talk. Talking to you from the big island in Hawaii. So, y'all be good, and we're going to catch up with y'all a little bit later. Peace.